Welcome back to Piled High Garage. Today we're going to be tearing into the 1965 Galaxie 500 once again. We've got a bunch of carburetor work we need to do on it this time. Drives pretty good, but it's definitely running really rich, and we want to just get this thing tuned up right for power tours. So we're going to tear this thing off. We're going to show you guys a lot about how carburetors work, about the proper way of rebuilding them, and especially the proper way of setting them up. We're going to be doing a couple things with it. You can see we've got a rebuild kit back here. We've got some jets. We're going to be checking our fuel pressure, putting a fuel pressure regulator on it, as well as some other things. And we're also going to be actually installing, I know this may be against the law for some of you guys out there, but we are actually going to go ahead and install a wideband AFR on this. We want to be able to see exactly where it's running, just to help us with the tuning aspect of it. We're going to get this thing actually set up, actually tuned and running good, not just running kind of where we think it's going to be good, although you can tell a lot. Some of you guys out there are probably a lot better than I am at it, but you can tell a lot by just sound, how they're running, all that good stuff. We can tune this with a vacuum gauge by all means. That's definitely acceptable, but on this one, just to really show you guys in depth what we're looking at, we are going to go ahead and install a wideband on this one. So come along with us. We're going to tear into it now. It's morning here. We're starting the day early. We're going to get cracking on this. I do have to go and do some other jobs here later on. Like I said, this is not our full-time deal here, but we're going to go do some work later on. But for now, we're going to start by tearing into the fuel system. I want to go ahead and slap a fuel pressure regulator on here with a fuel pressure gauge. I've never actually put a gauge on this one to see where it's actually running. I want to make sure that we've got a good, solid fuel pressure to work with, because it's really important when tuning a carburetor that you have solid, good, consistent fuel pressure. So we're going to check that out, make sure that it's running where we want it, and then we'll start tearing into the rest of the carburetor. All right. So first thing we're going to do here is we are going to just shove some rags right here. Ours on our fuel rail here actually already has a pretty good spot to install our fuel pressure gauge. So we're going to start by popping this open, just like so. This just has a cap on it. We're going to pop this guy open right here. Perfect. Now I did just go and kind of buy the cheapy standard Mr. Gasket fuel pressure gauge here. We're going to pop this open. We're going to throw some Teflon tape on that, and we're going to set that right in line there so that we can see when this thing is running what we're at. And then we're going to determine with that if we're going to need to go ahead and put a fuel pressure regulator in this system or not. Okay. Got our Teflon tape on. Go ahead and start threading that in. Don't go crazy with this. These are some little threads in here. Let me in. Okay, I'm just going to go a little further. There we go. That's about perfect. That way we can see what we're working with here. Okay, now that we got that in, let's go ahead and fire it up and just kind of see what we're working with as a starting point. Make sure we don't got any leaks. Nope, that all looks good. All right, so you saw we got it running, got our fuel pressure gauge in. We were reading about 4 PSI or so, which on a big block Ford like this, well, on these FE motors, 4 to 6 PSI is kind of a good range. This thing isn't a super hopped up motor by any means. It's got a cam, it's about it. It's a very streetable motor. So 4 PSI is gonna be okay to work with. Eventually we might like to up that and maybe replace that fuel pump. It is an old style mechanical fuel pump, but we're within range. So we're gonna go ahead and roll with that for now, and we're gonna start tearing apart this carburetor. For right now, I gotta run to work though, and we're gonna go knock some stuff out for the day, and then we'll come back here to Piled High tonight and keep working on this. All right, we are back after a nice, easy day at work. Definitely not digging ditches. We've got our AFR gauge, our wideband sensor is in. So we're gonna go ahead and pop this open, kind of go through everything on it, and get ready to get this thing installed in the car so we can start on our tuning. All right, let's see what old Santa Claus has in store for us here. So this is just the stickers, good. This is just the fairly inexpensive kit from Summit. Didn't need to go top of the line. I've heard of some guys doing some pretty extensive testing on a bunch of different AFR stuff, different wideband stuff like that, to see how different they were as far as the super high dollar ones and the super affordable ones. They kind of came up with a conclusion saying there's really not that much of a difference. So this kit was like 289 bucks or something like that. So here is our actual wideband sensor itself. Here is our AEM digital gauge for our AFRs. Yeah, looks pretty nice. Here's the harness 1, harness 2. Got some more stuff. Everyone's favorite part. More stickers. And then in here we got a couple of butt connectors and our weld-on bung. So we will pick a spot for that. We will get the car lifted up, drill a hole through the exhaust, find a good spot to weld this thing into, and get it all hooked up. We don't have to do all the fancy connections on this. Thankfully, these do have like a heater circuit, stuff like that built into them. Really all that we need is power to it. So just a hot and a ground, and that way this thing can fire up, and then we can start plugging it in and tuning her up. Okay. Nice and easy. That's what I wanted. Okay, we are up under the car now, looking for a good spot where we can put this wideband in. I am looking at probably about right here. I like this spot because I've got plenty of room up high where I can kind of angle this thing up just a little bit, just keep all the wires out of the way. I've got a spot right up here where I can run some wire up on top to keep it from dragging, and then it's a pretty straight shot right up top there to the cab where I can grab some power for it and get this thing kicked on and run our control wires in for the actual gauge of it. So we're going to get a step bit, drill that out, get a spot for our bung to go in, weld that guy in there. Go ahead and kind of mock this in place a little bit. I think right there is pretty good. So shoot for about right there. Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna get my little right angle drill attachment. Okay. All right, we got all our stuff here. We're gonna go ahead and just kind of hold this in place, just to kind of mock. Yeah, I think right there is gonna do just fine. So, got my step bit, Christmas tree bit, unibit, whatever you want to call it. Here, got my little right angle drill attachment. Super handy for stuff like this. I'm gonna go ahead and drill it right here. Almost. There we go. Getting closer. Okay. Looks good. Okay. Almost there. We're just going to go ahead and clean up the hole a little bit. Get ready to tack this thing on. Should be good. Yep. I like it. As you can see, our wideband will be right in there, just perfect. Clean this spot up a little here. Perfect. And get our bung set on there, just like that. Gonna clamp it on there. Perfect. Yep. I like it. Okay, that looks good. Get the welder over here and get ready to weld it. Okay, got the welder out. Got it tacked on there. Go ahead and finish up the welds around that. Get it cleaned up and throw our O2 sensor in there. We're gonna take a look with our inspection mirror here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I've got one little spot right there that I haven't gotten quite yet. Other than that, I think we're sealed up pretty good. So, I think that'll do it. Alright, wideband is in. And hit it with some silver cast blast paint just to prevent some rust. Got this screwed in tight. Now to run the wire. Okay, we are in the car. We've got our, we'll zip tie this stuff up and get it up and out of the way. But our very temporary setup down here, I did build us a just a small little custom Heidi bracket back here that just bolts into, let's see if we can see, yeah, bolts into the dash right there, just to hold our gauge in place. Looks good, sits right next to the tack. I've got it tied into our fuse block down there. Moment of truth. Let's turn the key on. See if it powers up. Get this so you guys can see it. Okay, here we go. Key on. Woohoo! Oh yeah, heat. So it's going to run through its heat cycle. We're going to definitely let that go ahead and heat up before we do anything. It's doing its thing though. There we go, nice. So it looks like it is ready to go. Running a little lean right now. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and make this temporary wiring slightly less temporary. Not super less, because this will not stay in this car forever. This is just going to be our tuning rig, so we'll use that for all sorts of vehicles in the future. But we're going to get this thing ready. We've got a little bit of a drive in the morning, so wanted to have it all ready for that. We're actually going to be driving this car up to Jefferson City, up to a friend of ours' shop, and he's going to be doing an alignment on this to take care of all the new suspension work that we did on this thing, so that we can be actually ready for the road. All right, we are back here at the shop now. It's dark outside, way quieter outside now. Went home with my wife and the kids. We ate dinner, hung out at the house for a little bit, got the kids to bed, but since we've got this drive in the morning, I wanted to make sure that we had this sensor hooked up so that we could be prepped for knowing exactly how this thing is running before we start into the carburetor tear off and getting that all set up properly. So now it's time for the moment of truth. Firing this thing up, we just let it go through its heat cycle. Got the garage doors popped open. We already know it's running rich. Let's see how rich. We're gonna give it some time. Let it do some figuring out. It should slowly start to richen up here and level out. See it slowly cresting down there. Now I did do a couple of small adjustments, just kind of setting our base on the idle mixture screws on all four corners. I just did a total guess. I just did about a turn and a half on each. So let's see where it levels out to here. We're going to go ahead and let it warm up a little bit, and then we'll check it once it's warm and sitting there at idle. All right, temp's coming up, not fully warm, but we're at 160, so that's good. So RPM's a little low right now, but honestly, better than I thought it was gonna be. I was honestly expecting somewhere around 11, maybe 10.8 is kind of what I was expecting it to be running at. Looks like we're about a whole point higher than that. So it looks like we're running at about 11.8 to kind of 12.2. So I'd say about an average of 12 to 1, which honestly, not that bad, all things considered. I am probably gonna go ahead and idle it up just a hair. Let's do that. Let's see about that. Okay. Sounds a little happier. Now that we're idling there, yeah, we're more at 11. Oh, what? 11.3 was the lowest I just saw. Up to every now and then it's hitting a 12. So, you know, definitely pretty rich, especially once we bump that idle up to about the 700-800 range. So, definitely going to do a little mixing on these idle screws. I'll probably go ahead and turn them all in a quarter of a turn. See what that does for us. Again, I'm just kind of setting a baseline. There we go. There. Bring that idle back down here now. Still a little rich. We'll mess with it a little bit. Like I said, we're not starting on the tuning yet. We've got a drive in the morning going up to Jeff City. So just doing a couple things now so that on our trip we can get some good data and kind of be prepared. So for now, I'm probably gonna go ahead and get this shut down, get the shop closed up. We'll be back up here bright and early. Run up to town, give this thing a good drive. All right, guys. I have messed with this a little more. I'll kind of show you what we've done here. So I like hooking up the timing light. It's a good, easy way to be able to adjust and watch your engine RPM at idle at the same time. So I was kind of shooting for somewhere around 750 to 775, and we're kind of right in that pocket here. So I'll kind of show you guys what I did. So we were running super rich, which we saw that. So what I've done is this carburetor here has got 4-corner screw idle controls, for one for the primary, one for the secondary, one set for the primary, one set for the secondary. Those are right here. That little guy, primary side, secondary side, okay? And then this screw here, that's our throttle adjustment for our idle set, okay? So what I've done, I started all of this at just a baseline of about 1.5 turns on those. This is where we're reading now, if you can see this. We are averaging about 14.0, somewhere right in that spot. Let me go ahead and shut this thing down, and I'll explain a couple things to you. All right, guys, got the car shut back down. So one other thing that I thought of checking before I kind of just shut it down to kind of explain a couple things is I actually went ahead and put the air filter assembly back on, put the breather back on there. Unfortunately, in this particular vehicle, and I'm probably gonna buy a different style air cleaner for this to give me a little more surface area. So with this thing, because we've got this 428 crammed in here, we really don't have a lot of hood height for a good big air filter. We tested a bunch of them to try and get the absolute biggest one in here that we could. And this was the biggest that we could go with in this round style. So I think I'm gonna go with kind of one of those, I don't know, oval-y ones, kind of like what you see on like Mustangs and stuff like that a lot of times, older fastbacks and stuff like that. We're gonna try that. But this is what I saw. I was running pretty consistent, 13.8 to 14.2. You know, we're watching an average. We're only doing one side, all those good things. So it was bouncing back and forth, 13.8, 14.2, 13.8, 14.2. So we were right at about 14.0, which is kind of where I want to be. I'll explain that a little more here in a little bit. But I threw this air filter on out of curiosity to see if it affected my AFR, and it did quite a bit. We actually ran lean, and what I started seeing is that I was actually pushing about 14.7 to 14.8 at that point, just by sticking that air filter on there. So made a couple of adjustments, and I'm kind of into the fine-tuning adjustments at this point, because you know, when you're fighting for points, it's a really finicky game. So you do big swings to get it kind of in the neighborhood, adjust all 4 corners, primary, secondaries, then you can start fine-tuning. And like I said, I'm not going crazy with this because I'm still going to pull this carburetor off of this car and really tear into it. You know, we've got all of our parts over here for it, so we are going to tear into this more, but I wanted to have it just kind of in the ballpark for this drive tomorrow. And I knew it was running very, very rich, which we found it was running about 11.7, 11.8 at idle, which is really, really fat. So so now we're idling at a really good 14.0-ish. So let me show you a couple of those things down here. Okay, so when you are adjusting these carburetors here, this is like the 4150 style, you know, Holley, all those good guys. This one is the Quick Fuel. Great carburetor. It's a 680. I think it's properly sized for the application. This does have a cam in it, but it's not a huge cam. It's just a slightly upgraded street cam, so nothing crazy like that. So down in here, like I was saying earlier, but I'm not sure if you could hear me or not, and I may have to take this filter off of here so you can actually see, but we will go more in depth on this. But this little guy right there, that is one of our primary idle circuit controls. So that is the screw for the actual idle bleed inside of that metering block. There's one like that here. There's one right back here. Our throttle adjustment for the idle is right there. You can just barely see it peeking out back there. That's that. Like I was saying earlier, I like to use my timing light so that I can really get a good read on where my idle is at. We had that at about 750 to 775. And then we got screws in the four corners over here. So I had them originally set at 1.5 out as just kind of a base to get me set, to get me started. I saw that we were still running very rich, and mind you, that was after I made an adjustment. Somebody had put a couple of turns on a couple of these screws just to try and help one day, because it was running a little rough one day. We got it running, noticed it still wasn't right, but like some of these screws were like 2 turns out, trying to get it to kind of idle that day. We may have had a bad batch of fuel or something like that that was kind of giving us some funky drivability. But anyway, so I had already cranked all these in, brought them out 1.5 turns on all 4 corners. We were running about 11.8. So I just went ahead and made kind of a big swing, turned all 4 down 1/2 turn. So we were at 1 turn for all of them. It was still running pretty rich, about a 12.4, 12.5. So I went ahead and tried to swing for the fences, did another big swing on that, and went ahead and did another full 1/2 turn on all of them. That was too much. As soon as I got to my secondary metering block and started turning those to 1/2 turn, it actually died on me. So it didn't have enough flowing through there to keep it running. So I opened them all up to 3/4 turn and fired it up. It ran at that point. So it was running good there. Went ahead and basically where we ended up, kind of our sweet spot on it, is our back adjustments are at about 3/4 turn on our secondary, and our primaries are about 7/8, give or take, because I was doing some real fine adjustments on there and finally got it sitting kind of right where I wanted it, right at about that 14.0. So we're hitting about 14.0, running about 750, 775 RPM at idle. It felt really happy. And that is kind of the biggest thing with these motors. I cannot tell you a perfect AFR for your engine combination. All right, so every carburetor is a little bit different, every motor is a little bit different, every batch of fuel is a little bit different, and especially nowadays, you know, 14.7, that is based on perfect world situation. 14.7 to 1, you're dealing with a perfect stoichiometric ratio that is based on good actual petroleum-based only fuel. So that doesn't account for any ethanol that's in the fuel, which we know most of the stuff you're getting at the pump these days has up to 10% ethanol in those, and that actually reduces your stoich as far as that goes. So I like to shoot, especially on these motors, where a little rich, you're not going to hurt anything. You're not running any cats on these or anything like that. So a 14 is usually a pretty good number for something like this that is going to be street driven, pump gas driven. So that's where I'm going to be. The engine sounds happy, it feels happy, and that's the biggest thing, is kind of use your best judgment on those things. So that's where we're going to leave it for now. Like I said, we'll be back here in the morning. I know I said that earlier, but now for real, we're going to be back here in the morning. I am going to go home, get some rest, and we'll be back here bright and early. All right, it is morning here at Piled High. Got the car backed out. Of course, right before we go for a drive, the silly oil pressure gauge, you know, the little hose that always likes to leak, it decided to start dripping oil, you know, kind of everywhere. Followed us out the door. So we went ahead and for now just pulled it out, capped it off. We know it's got good oil pressure, so it'll make us to Jeff City and back, but we got an appointment to get to, so we're gonna get out of here. Alright, it's on the lift. Time for the alignment. We've got our boy Mike up here. Say hi, Mike.
Hey. Don't do alignment.
He's rocking it.
He should, yeah.
Shame. Somebody stay put.
This is what happens when you don't have a working fuel gauge. So luckily we're not very far from a gas station. So Zach went ahead and is locking way up there. Go get a gas can and some fuel, but it's alright. Worst things have happened.
Well, we have traded out the Galaxie for the Vans Express. This is what happens when I say this morning, oh, I should probably get gas, and then we forgot. There it is. Way back there. All right, back here, another night. We're gonna go ahead and start tearing this thing off. Take a look at our transfer slots. See what we got working under here. All right, everyone, we are over here at the bench now. We've got the carburetor up off of the car and on the table. We do have our rebuild kit here for it. We've got our Holley jet kit. We're gonna go ahead and tear this thing apart. Carburetor's not super old. It's probably only 3-ish years old. So it's pretty clean, doesn't have a ton of miles on it, but we are gonna go ahead and just tear it apart, make sure that all the seals, all the gaskets, everything inside of it is new, cleaned up, ready to go. We'll get this thing put back together. We'll get it put back on the car. Then we'll start doing some of our test drives. We'll do a couple of preliminary adjustments while we've got it on the bench. But once we get it all together back on the car, then we'll start doing the fun part of tuning it all. So let's go ahead and start tearing this thing apart. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and open up our new rebuild kit, see what we've got in here and get it all put back together. Okay, carburetor is rebuilt. We went ahead and redid all of our gaskets, replaced our accelerator pump diaphragm, put all new O-rings and everything in here. Give it a little cleanup, just got any fuel and carbon deposits out of there that we could find. So for the most part, our tuning is going to be done on the vehicle, but there are a couple of things that we're going to do while it's off, just as kind of like a baseline that you set up whenever you're putting a carburetor on a car, especially after a rebuild. So those two things, these 4-corner idle screws, which we touched some right after we put the AFR gauge in there. We're going to go ahead and set those to 1 1/4 turns open. So I've already done that. Now the other thing that we're going to adjust, and it is kind of hard to see on camera, but we're going to be messing with our transfer slots. So it's going to be this spot right in there, right underneath my screwdriver there. I'll push this open so you can see the slot a little more. So you see that slot that's coming out there? So that is our idle transfer slot. So that allows an emulsion of air and fuel to come into the engine and help this thing run for the idle circuit there. Now, kind of the good rule of thumb, they say make that look like a square. So you want it to be less like a slot and more like a square there. So we are going to go ahead and crank up our idle adjustment screw over here just until we see what looks like a square. So I'm going to go with right about there. So pretty minute change, but We don't want a whole lot of fuel mixture coming through at idle. So now that we got that on there, we're gonna go put this back on the car, fire it up, start doing our real tuning. All right. Okay, so we've got some preliminary setup done. Got our idle adjustments made. Part that I didn't bore you guys with was taking it back apart, as I realized that I put the stopper diaphragm, the fill diaphragm, if you will, for the accelerator pump in upside down, which does not work because in your accelerator pump diaphragm does not fill with fuel. Figured that out when I went to start it up earlier. So took it back off the car, took that back apart, flipped that around, got it all fixed. So now we're good to go there. I've got a semi-baseline idle setup. It's still running rich, but first thing I want to do before really tearing into it is just go and drive this. So we're gonna go take it for a spin, and then we'll come back and make some adjustments based on what we find. Okay, so right off the bat, super rich, super rich, which we knew it was gonna be, and that's okay. So we're at about 12.5 right now, just kind of putting out of the shop here. So we're gonna take it down the road, pay attention at a couple of different things as far as part throttle drive, get a little bit of a load on it with part throttle, see where it's at. And then we'll also try and do a little wide open. So it's not cruising too bad at part throttle right here, about 13.4, which it's a little rich, but it's okay. I'd rather it be there than seeing like 15 or something right here. Honestly, part throttle cruise is pretty good, which means that our transfer slots are probably set up okay. But once we actually hit our idle circuit, we're running about 12.8. So we're gonna adjust those idle control screws whenever we get back for sure, and see if we can lean up the idle. Yeah, we're idling about 12.0 right now as we roll up to this stoplight. So, but a little more fuel is good than not enough fuel, and we will fix this, get this thing tuned up and running real nice. Green light, here we go. Okay, a little part throttle. We're going a little lean, about 14.0, which isn't dangerously lean, but it is a little more lean than I would like this car to be. Okay, going up a hill with a little bit of a load, 13.5, love it. That part I think is great. Let's check our accelerator pump, seems to be working well. I like how that's feeling. Okay, now we're gonna just start rolling into the throttle here. Now on wide open throttle, you do have to give it a second to clear out so that the wideband can actually read after it dumps all that accelerator pump fuel in there. So here we go. So it is a little lean whenever it comes to that. We were still floating at about the 13.5, 13.6 area. Little too lean for what I would like to see for a wide open throttle for sure. However, I'm glad to see that we're not seeing, you know, like 15s, which I did see the last time we drove this car before throwing it all back together and making some adjustments on what we've done so far. So we're gonna go ahead and flip around, take this thing back to the shop, and we'll make some adjustments. We'll talk about it, we'll think it over, and then come back to you with what adjustments we want to make. Okay, we went on our drive, we're back now. Saw a couple different things. Overall, not the worst carburetor tuning setup I've ever seen. However, it is very, very rich at an idle, which we knew that before we left, but I just wanted to drive it, kind of see how it reacted, make sure that it was acting normally in all the other bands after the rebuild. All the other circuits were doing what they were supposed to do. Everything felt really good. It's actually driving really nice, but we are going to make it better. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by adjusting the idle circuit, and the reason for that is everything on a carburetor, all this stuff works together. So everything is a cumulative total whenever you get to the end. So step number one is idle. So we're going to go ahead and start by adjusting that. Once we get the idle where we want it, then we'll press on from there and continue making some other adjustments. Okay, so got our breather off. What we're gonna do is we are gonna start by leaning out our idle mixture screws here. Now, from what I have seen on this carburetor in the past, it is touchy. So we're not gonna go a lot. I am gonna make what I think might be somewhat of a big change, and I'm gonna do about 1/4 of a turn on these. Okay, we're going to start with that, reset our idle, see where it's at. Okay, it's running. Idle's a little high after that mixture change. Okay, back from driving the car. So far, everything is looking really good. We have nothing that is overly rich or overly lean at this point. Our idle is doing really well. Part throttle was doing really great. We were seeing, 13.5s, 14s, nothing too crazy. The only thing that I noticed while we were driving it was that whenever we go into our wide open throttle and, well, really heavy throttle into wide open throttle, kind of that transition area, we are a little lean there. We're shooting at about 13.2, which I would love to see that somewhere in the 12.7 range. So I think what we're going to adjust next is on these quick fuels, and I'll show you here in just a second, on these quick fuel carburetors, the vacuum pot for the secondaries is actually very, very super simple to adjust, which is great. It's a simple screw that you can turn left and right. One is for faster engagement and one is for a slower engagement. So we're going to start by just adjusting that, take it out for another spin and see how it does. I'm going to try to get it to where you can see. It is this little screw right here, and it looks like out is going to be faster and it's going to be slower. We're going to start with about a half a turn out, kind of see where that gets us. Like I said before, we were at about 13.5. See if that gets us down into that 12.7 area. Final thoughts on my quick fuel 680 carburetor and as well as carburetors in general. Firstly, I want to say that this carburetor is awesome. It has so many tuning capabilities and options built into it. These metering blocks on the primaries and the secondaries, man, they've got emulsion adjustments. They've got the power valve adjustments for all the metered orifices that you can take out and put new stuff in there. It has just a ton of options in it, and this carburetor has been awesome. Every time I make an adjustment, it does what I wanted it to. Rebuilt it, everything was good. We did go ahead and throw all the new gaskets and everything in there. There were a couple things that definitely got better after the rebuild. So there must have been something, you know, it's been sitting a little bit. So anyway, that all went good. I wanted to do some more in-depth tuning on this. But fortunately, in my case, it went really well, and we didn't have to go super in depth. It enjoyed the jetting that it had, and it's just running really, really good and being very consistent and being right where I want it to be. Now, I plan to do some other carburetor videos in the future. We'll do some more in-depth stuff. I'm sure we'll find something that's much more tricky than this one ended up being. So anyway, look forward to those. Be watching for those, and happy to answer any questions that you guys might have as well. And secondly, here, my hopes with this video is that you will not be scared to go out and start touching your carburetor. If it seems like it's running rich, if it seems like it's not running great, dig into it. Start making some adjustments. Tear it down, rebuild it. As you're tearing it down, pay attention. See what holes go where, how the metering block functions. Just look into it. It's a very mechanical setup, and it's very fun to mess with and really start to understand it. So I want you to see it as more than just a big thing of screws and bolts and nuts that you're afraid to touch anything on. It's actually a pretty precise tuning device that, as you saw with the wideband, you can really get it pretty fine-tuned if you can mess with it long enough and have patience and see what you're doing on it. So that's it for now on this one. I am going to go and start detailing this car, get it all cleaned up. We do have our Sonic Summer Nights car show coming up tomorrow. If you guys are going to be in the area of Versailles, Missouri, swing on out there. It's an awesome event. You should definitely come and check it out if you've never been. We're going to continue working towards Power Tour. We've got that coming up. That'll be starting on June 8th. We're going to have plenty of content leading up to that, as well as the Power Tour itself. We're going to have a lot of stuff there. So, okay, that's it.